Hello, everyone. How are you doing? This is Daryl Guberman, CEO of Guberman PMC LLC, a quality consulting firm here in Connecticut. The pertinent data will be down in the description of this video. And today, this video is Army picks Blackhawk replacement, but Richard Blumenthal says choice is unreasonably irresponsible. Why? Because Richard Blumenthal is on the disbursements list for Lockheed Martin for the state of Connecticut. In fact, if you look at disbursements from Lockheed Martin, doesn't matter the year, every state in the union, both Democrats and Republicans, are getting some sort of financial compensation from Lockheed Martin. So we're going to go. The first person I want to introduce to you, because she came here from Washington, I appreciate her coming in, is, hold on a sec, Rosa DeLauro, who's been in office too long. So here is Rosa DeLauro is here. We also have Mr. Richard Blumenthal, okay, who made that comment about being irresponsible, about, I guess it's the Army being irresponsible, but maybe, just maybe, the Army found out that these guys have approved Lockheed Martin in 2015 to working with communist China, because they were, at the time, an international regulator, probably still are, and these four people that I'm introducing today were approving and condoning the fact that Lockheed worked so rigorously with communist China, our number one military supplier, who in 2009 got hacked by the same country that they approved to purchase Sikorsky Aircraft. Isn't that nice? The next guy up on the block is Christopher Murphy. We're going to be bringing him back too. We're going to leave probably Rosa out of commission, probably Jim Himes, because they weren't involved with a lot of the articles that we've been looking at, but they still are part of the Connecticut contingency. So we're going to also have over here Daryl Jim Himes. We're going to give in brief a little assessment and overview. We also have some of the CEOs of those companies like Lockheed Martin, also Sikorsky or Lockheed Sikorsky. We also have Boeing here, Mr. David Calhoun, Mr. Tassett from Jim Tassett from Lockheed Martin, and also Don Lemo from Lockheed Sikorsky. We also have Mr. Mitch Snyder from Bell Aircraft, and the CEO of Bell Textron is Mr. I think it's Donnelly. So he's here as well. So we're going to put them all down right now, and we're going to go through this. The reason why we do this is a brief. This is very brief because we don't want to clog your mind up with this. You're going to find all the information down below. There's a lot of research and development that went into the information that is down below in videos and articles. You have ANSI, the American National Standards Institute, is a private, not-for-profit, non-governmental corporation who has federal agencies and corporations on board. In 2015, Mr. Randy Doherty handed over leadership of the International Accreditation Forum, which harbors all of these accreditation bodies, both foreign and domestic. You have ANSI-ASQ-ANAB. ANSI took over complete control over ANAB in 2018. Sitting on the IAF at the time when this communist Chinese national was there between 2015 and 21 was, of course, ANSI and ANAB. They sat there, being controlled and manipulated and influenced by communist China. Sitting on the IAF also was Lockheed Martin. Lockheed Martin, who is an associate member. An associate member can vote on policy. So you have Lockheed sitting right over by, many times they designate in their procedures the utilization of ANSI-ANAB for their suppliers on ISO or quality certifications. It's in their procedures, which is kind of a, what does that do? And they stack in the deck. On top of that, sitting over by ANSI-ANAB on American companies, sitting over by Lockheed Martin, our number one military supplier, is also Pakistan and Iran. Iran and Pakistan, who admitted to harboring some of the terrorists of 9/11. This does not go to the people of those countries, but the leadership, of course. You have the factor of Pakistan, who harbored Osama bin Laden, the brainchild of the brains between the whole 9/11 deal that killed 3,000 Americans. Yet you still have Lockheed Martin being an associate member that can vote on policy, yet these guys have never been voted off or at least sanctioned. We have guest appearances, of course, from Mitch Schneider, CEO of Bell, and also Scott Donnelly, the Textron CEO. They're both here representing their companies, where Textron said to their shareholders that they ought to be careful in buying shares, that they may have a role reversal, meaning that that Lockheed, Sikorsky / Boeing may ultimately take the contract away from them. Isn't that nice? Would you call that insider kind of information that should not have been distributed to the, I guess it's the SEC that they filed their documentation with? And how confident can these guys be? They must have inside information, don't they? So let's continue on. In 2009, Lockheed Martin gets hacked by China, taking all of the F-35 data. Let me move it up to 2013 so we can be more, 1, 2, 3 items. In 2009, Lockheed Martin gets hacked by China. Okay, they sit on ANSI's board. They were also sitting on the International Accreditation Forum. Okay. In 2013, Lockheed Martin formed an alliance with Bell Helicopter to make the V-280 Valor. Now, Lockheed couldn't keep their cybersecurity to themselves, so I am sure without a doubt that China also got into their systems and took some of the information about the Valor, the V-280 Valor from Bell, which meant this, business owners and my fellow citizens, which means that they had in China, they had an exposition, and on display was both the V-280 Valor, which was another designation that China gave, and also the Defiant SB-1 from Lockheed, Sikorsky, and Boeing, which meant that these helicopters that we're talking about, the Tiltrotor and the other one, have had their data. The data is in China now. So why are we even wasting our time spending money on these aircraft? And by the way, the Defiant SB-1, if you look at it, was called the ABC, okay? That was the name that it was designated when I was working at Sikorsky. Actually, it is the Sikorsky S-69. And that technology that's on the Defiant SB-1, the only thing that really made it different from the Sikorsky S-69, which was built, manufactured in 1973, is that the materials have definitely changed, but the mechanics are all the same. So it's really a 1973 technology. Look up the Sikorsky S-69. We're going to continue on. Lockheed Martin has an atrocious record for quality. They really do. They had an article that came out, and I just did a video on it. 800 aircraft, the F-35, have been produced by Lockheed with more gremlins in it than you could shake a stick at. Gremlins. I'm talking about serious quality issues that will cause loss of aircraft. And it's absolutely unbelievable what is taking place with that. And they're still producing these aircraft without getting rid of the corrective actions. So in 2009, Lockheed gets hacked. In 2012, Sikorsky Aircraft gets hacked. The division of United Technologies, which was sitting on ANSI, right over by Lockheed and right over by Boeing. This is the problem. This is the problem indeed when you have Richard Blumenthal saying that the choice by the Army is unreasonably irresponsible. Maybe what happened is the Army got wind that these four people, Rosa DeLauro, Jim Himes, Christopher Murphy, and also Richard Blumenthal, were so entrenched with the factor that Lockheed had to work with China to purchase Sikorsky Aircraft. You think something's wrong with that? Absolutely, and here we go. With China's okay, Lockheed Martin to close on Sikorsky purchase. But Connecticut lawmakers praise Lockheed Martin for clearing its last regulatory hurdle. That means they were cheerleading Lockheed for working with communist China. And there's the bottom one. Connecticut lawmakers, as I said, are #1 military contractor who had their technology raped in 2009. When they worked with Bell in 2013, they probably got hacked again, taking those blueprints that I'm sure they traded off back and forth at the design of that aircraft. It's absolutely unbelievable. We have Mr. James Tassett, the CEO of Lockheed Martin, who was just here with Don Lemma, the Sikorsky president. Here he is. He was just most recently in because Sikorsky delivered its 5,000th Blackhawk helicopter. We also have issues. I told you about Lockheed having quality issues. Now, they're building an aircraft that they can't get their quality issues straight with a fixed-wing aircraft, the F-35. Do you think they're going to make a difference with a rotary ringed aircraft, even though, what they did, Lockheed brought the ooze into Sikorsky Aircraft? And I'm not saying this about the personnel, I'm saying it about the management. Well, here's a couple articles about the F-35 and its poor quality. And not only that, but you have the Pratt & Whitney engines that also got a couple dings on their quality. You have the factor of Boeing. Boeing, here it is, Boeing. Boeing also got hacked by China, taking a lot of data. You have David Calhoun here, and David Calhoun is smiling right now, but I think it's a nervous smile, because now you have Lockheed Martin with their quality issues, okay, with the F-35, bringing it over into Sikorsky that they most recently purchased in 2015. But here you have the factor that Boeing fudged documentation on their aircraft, along with their metal supplier, Kobe Steel. Now, are you confident about flying? They usually say in the aircraft industry, it's a whisper, though. They don't have enough chutzpah to tell them, if it's Boeing, don't get going. Now, people always ask me, Daryl, how do you know it was stolen? You're saying it, but show us. Well, let me show you this. Here it is, business owners, my fellow citizens. You have the F-35 over here. Here, let me get my little pointer. You have the F-35 over here. F-35, and here's its Chinese counterpart. You have the Blackhawk helicopter over here, and you have its Chinese counterpart. I'll hold it here for a second. So, we continue on, and then you look at this. You have the factor that Lockheed Martin sits on ANSI's board. You have Boeing that sits on ANSI's board. They were controlled by Communist China via their membership on ANSI, because ANSI and ANAB sat on the IF during 2015 to 2021. You have the factor of federal agencies and corporations sitting on board. And they say that the Government Accounting Office, which put a hold on the actual contract win for the replacement Blackhawk on Bell and Lockheed, Sikorsky, Boeing, they put a hold up, and they call it a nonpartisan. Well, let me just tell you something. The GAO is... I'm telling you, as a quality professional for over 40 years, that Sikorsky, Lockheed Sikorsky, and Boeing will ultimately win that contract. When you have the CEO of Bell, Mr. Donnelly, whisper in the SEC's ears is that we ought to make a recommendation not to buy our stock because it may be a role reversal. Isn't that a tender moment in a turbulent world? And now we go further. Sitting on there is the FAA on ANSI's board. Also, this is the real catch over here. You have the Department of Transportation also sitting there. Also, here it is. You have the FBI. The FBI was sitting there 2015, 2021. They got hacked many, many times. And let me introduce another guest here who came in. We have Mr. Christopher Wray. Christopher Wray, who at every Senate subcommittee meeting when they're asking him about China and infiltration, the most recent one was on November 15, 2022, where he said that TikTok is a detriment to all of America. I think the military took TikTok out of the men and women of service. They took them out of their telephones, their cell phones. And also he said that China is a detriment. In fact, his words are always this: the whole of the Chinese society is a threat to the United States, and the Americans must step up to defend themselves. So while the DOD is working with the GAO to come to some resolution about who's going to win this darn contract, they sit on ANSI's board too, right over by Lockheed, right over by Boeing. So think about this logically. Do you think that Bell has any sort of luck? And well, the CEO doesn't have any prayers from what the author of the document that I read about will their layoffs hurt Sikorsky Aircraft or the change in contract. It looks like, if Bell really did that, or Textron really did that, the CEO, saying that we ought to warn the shareholders that there may be a reversal, he must have a lot of pride in his product, because he should be out there stomping his feet down there and representing it instead of maybe on his golf cart. And that's the way you look at it. In this contract, this whole mess, whether Sikorsky, Lockheed, or Lockheed Sikorsky / Boeing, or Bell Tex, or whatever, those 5 CEOs will make out whether they win or lose. That's the way it is. And the poor person on the floor will suffer the slings and arrows of that loss ultimately. My telephone number is 203-556-1493, or Daryl, D-A-R-O-Y-L, TQRS @yahoo.com. And the Army picks Blackhawk replacement, but Richard Blumenthal says choice is unreasonable and irresponsible. Well, let me just tell you something. You know what was unreasonable and irresponsible, business owners, my fellow citizens? I'll tell you what was unreasonable and was when Richard Blumenthal, Chris Murphy, Rosa DeLauro, and Jim Himes praise Lockheed Martin for working with communist China. Now that is irresponsible. And it's coming from a guy who said that he was in Vietnam and he lied. Are you going to believe a liar, business owners, my fellow citizens? Are you going to believe this? I have it all. Please contact me. You don't want to believe a liar. Look at Lockheed, 800 aircraft, 800 discrepancies, and discrepancies still going into 801, 802, 83. I did a video on that. You have the factor of Boeing fudging documentation, the team members, all in distress with quality. All right? I've looked into Bell. Bell's quality is not bad for the stuff that they produce, but you have major contractors. Our number one military supplier can't get their shit together. By the way, that's a quality term. When it comes to making the F-35, an aircraft that the Chinese are already building, an aircraft that during the Obama administration, they signed waivers. The Department of Defense, that sits on ANSI, they signed waivers so that China could build these specialized magnets for the F-35. Isn't that a tender moment in a disgusting society? I thank you for your time. I look forward to hearing from you.